Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schla. And today was actually great. I'm not entirely sure why, but it was just a good day. So, yeah, there's not I mean, what else do you really have to say about that? It's just like it was a very nice good day. It was a good way to get through Monday. And yeah, like I said, tomorrow I'm actually going to do a shorter day. And then Wednesday I'm going to do a longer day because I think that ends up being easier. I think that's probably a better schedule for the weeks where I only do 2 long days instead of 3. Of course, when I do the 3 long days, that's going to be. I still think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is the best, but could make the argument something like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday could make more sense. I don't know. There's probably a couple rationales of looking at that, and yeah, I'm not really too sure. I'm trying to think. I guess I was actually thinking you could make the argument that for these days, the a Tuesday Thursday could actually be the ideal um, concoction. It's actually thinking that that is actually a possibility, which is kind of interesting to think about. Um, but yeah, so it's interesting if you think about like the rationale with what would be the lightest load. I do think a yeah, like I'm trying to think about it. A Tuesday, um, yeah, Tuesday, Thursday might overall be less of a load. It's entirely possible, just because it gives like a nice breaking between all the rest of them. You know, I think it's interesting to think about. It's definitely interesting to think about. Anyways, how am I doing? I don't know. It's like it's one of those things. I'm very frustrated because I want to buy the microphone equipment and there's just not really any good listings on eBay right now. So I'm like, you know, kind of I guess I'm genuinely contemplating between like should I just go ahead and pay, like a higher price for the stuff um or should I wait? Because it's like I'm really at a point where like it's not really going to matter all that much. And I wonder if there's almost been some kind of a lesson in that where it's like, is that something that I'm supposed to kind of get over, like the whole like trying to get a deal thing, and should I really be all that concerned? I don't know. I've kind of thought about that recently cuz it does add some frustration and stress to things, but I think overall like I'm still pretty interested in just waiting it out, but we'll see, because it's like I really want to try to get this stuff shipped so we can get more episodes at a higher quality. And yeah, it's just, I mean, it's kind of a shame because I could have gotten some of the equipment, and I think I would have if I knew, like, kind of how things would have. would be like this, I probably would have bought some stuff already. But again, it's just kind of the way the timing worked, and I really wanted to buy it today. I wanted to place some orders today, but there's just nothing really all that good on eBay at the moment, so I'm just kind of stuck. But, hopefully there's some kind of reason for it. I don't know. I'm hoping there's a reason for it. It's like, what can I do? But yeah, I mean, besides that, I'm not really sure that there's any. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I have any like ideas or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not sure that I do. Um, like any ideas to talk about or anything like that. It's just, I mean, it is what it is. It was a good day, and I think honestly, a lot of the content that I come up with, it comes from a pain. I had a rethought about this point. I mean, I've brought it up before, but I guess I just feel like repeating it. This idea that I kind of went through what I went through as some kind of a character development, and it's like there's basically, if I had just been social and been popular, all my ways of seeing things, I'm pretty certain would be different. And of course, I can't say for sure, but like, I really think it's likely. I think that if I was popular and if I didn't really have much shyness or anxiety and was just able to kind of like muscle through stuff and be popular, I just don't think I would be the same person. I think I would be really happy. And, a lot of times it's like if somebody's broken, that's really what creates like a depth of character. You know, when somebody hasn't really gone through anything, it's just not really like that, you know? But at the same time, I mean, a lot of people, the things that I am upset about are like things that a lot of people just don't relate to, which I think is a relevant thing to point out because it does reduce, like, again, a lot of relatability metrics and things like that. I remember that too. I remember thinking, like, I had this thought randomly when I was like a teenager. I was probably like, I might have even been 13. And at the time, there was a brief period in my life I was getting into like looking at memes. Like that's actually what I would do. Um, I guess it was kind of during the peak of iFunny. And I was young. I mean, I was probably like 12 or 13, but I did. I liked iFunny for like a period of time. Um, But again, I'm not really sure what happened because eventually I just like completely lost interest in all that stuff and it just like didn't appeal to me anymore. Like once I got older, past a certain point, and then I remember I was like a senior in high school and it's like people still are into the memes, like they're still there. And I was like thinking like I don't even, and of course memes basically changed and morphed into TikTok. I mean, at this point, people don't really do memes so much anymore. So if anything, memes were like a better version of kind of what we have now because they weren't as overstimulating and just like crazifying. But, you know, what is the point of me bringing this up? Like, I'm like losing track of why was I bringing it up? Oh yeah, I would notice with a lot of the humor and how I guess I would, and this was while I was on iFunny, I was kind of correlating it with what I seen in other people, and in addition, it was a certain meme that brought it up, And I thought and I realized, like, for some people, for some reason, people love relatability. I mean, if something is relatable, they are so happy instantly. And it's like everybody kind of wants to find people and talk to people where it's like they're relatable. And I understand that, but I think a part of me is like kind of okay with disagreeing with people. I don't really think I need to relate to people necessarily. I think the only reason why I would appreciate if something was relatable to me is because it's like almost none of those things are ever relatable to me. And it usually feels like, I wish that there were people that kind of related to me in terms of, interest in higher things like, the progress of humanity. Are we going to survive? Let's try to fix society. Let's try to solve problems. Let's think about that. But for the most part, you have people who are obsessive over nonsense and silliness, and yeah. I mean, it's just like, it's weird. It's very weird to me. Um, it's so like really, you know, it's very frustrating because a lot of times, again, like I'm doing all this extra mental work, like trying to rationalize. I feel like I do a lot of work trying to rationalize people and things that I probably shouldn't. Like there is certain judgment calls where it's like, yeah, I mean, wanting to be healthier, it is objectively better. I try to think about, well, a lot of people love freedom. They're obsessed with thinking they have autonomy, when it's like really they don't. Or at least, again, I mean, I believe that we're semi-autonomous, but from my perspective, when I look at other people, I don't really see much autonomy, you know? And again, usually there's an autonomy towards making the wrong choice, or there's like environments set up that encourage the wrong decisions. And yeah, I mean, I just think a lot about like environmental coercion, which, is not explicitly the same as coercion by another person, but again, I think as a lot of these topics continue to become like at the forefront, we as a humanity do need to start to think about like, is that a violation of consent? Is advertising like, it's not something we consent to? And even being born into the culture, our birth into existence is not a consensual decision. We are brought about, at least from what we can perceive. I've heard different philosophies, religions, schools of thought where, it's either maybe our soul chose the life we're living, or maybe it chose it specifically, or maybe it chooses it at random. So it's kind of like souls or spirits, they get bored of the afterlife, and for some reason, they want to incarnate in this realm. I'm not entirely, we all, from our perspective, aren't understanding of that, but maybe, to somebody who, some soul who is like every single day, it's always sunny and, it's all sunshine and rainbows. Maybe for fun, they want to incarnate in this realm, in this, reality. And I guess that's understandable if, you really feel like you have nothing better to do. But yeah, I think it's a relevant thing to bring up. Um, and then there's also obviously schools of thought where it's like, God chose you to be here. You are here because God wants you to be here, and God has a purpose and a reason for everybody to be here. But again, a lot of these ideas, I think they always kind of had logistical flakiness, and then now they're going to be under even more scrutiny because a lot of people are like dying. I mean, it's going to start to happen soon. I think you're going to start to eventually have um, resource scarcity issues where it's like, land's going to start to become scarce, livable land, clean drinking water. A lot of these things are going to start to become scarce because this is like the nature of where things are going, like very profit forward, very machine forward, and the caveat and the flaw with that is, you're going to do more pollution. And we're already seeing that in a lot of areas. Like, I think it's one of the most important things that we kind of learn how to, have progress, especially technological progress, but really try to crack down on the emissions and environmental impact. It's probably one of the most crucial things to consider. But it doesn't seem like it's really getting the attention, energy, or momentum that it should. So, it's just likely that things are not really going to end well. That's just the honest, likely outcome. It is what it is, but kind of goes in line with what I've said about how I feel that it's likely things are fairly predestined and there isn't, like, humanity may not have as much autonomy as we think we do. I've had a theory before of some kind of like a cyclical nature to reality, and yeah, I mean it's like a true. I think it's a true thing that it could be like maybe my aspirations are just like not relevant. But then you wonder, I mean, why am I here? Why do I think what I think? You know, why do I think what I think? So it's very. Because why would a human have the capacity to really care about these things if I'm supposed to just say, well, nothing can happen as a result of it. So it is what it is. Like, I'm just supposed to roll over and like enjoy what I can while I can. But yeah, I mean, there's like serious resource scarcity issues on the horizon. Of course, you know, a lot of times with a lot of that stuff, it's like people get like a boy who cried wolf effect because there's an over scaring effect. But the whole point is like at some point things will come to a front. If we don't figure out how to do things more efficiently, then it's over. And the truth is, the way the world is set up now, there's a lot of things that don't make any sense. I've talked about it before a lot. I was thinking about this even years ago that, like, you know, you shouldn't have a long commute to your job, right? Like, it's like that just as a thing, it shouldn't exist. There should be some kind of system set up where, if you have a job, you're at there for a pretty long period of time and your home is close to the job. Like, there should not be these like excessive commutes. It really shouldn't even be allowed. um it is not good, the amount of just like resources and just waste that using a car goes through. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible how costly and expensive and complicated it all is. And there's a certainty to somebody having a better quality of life if their work is just a 10-minute walk. You don't have the risk of driving. You don't have to be anxious about driving. You don't have to pay for car insurance. You don't have to pay for all these car owning. Like, I mean, it really makes your life better. But it's like in this day and age, you're just expected to have a car. So that is the expectation. And it's like if you don't have a car, I mean, there's some places that probably would, be kind of skeptical to hire you if you didn't have a driver's license, and it just becomes like a rite of passage. And it's a stupid rite of passage because, again, you're getting rewarded for arguably making the wrong decision, you know? But we have to start to think of these things because we're not dealing with this abundance era anymore where you could ride off of an exponential population growth. You didn't have to think about efficiency that much because there was so much extra positive GDP growth. There was such little old people straining the system and so many more young people working to support those. Like, you can't, you know. And it's crazy because to think, like, I mean, when I was growing up, I thought I would retire. That's what I was told. That's what everybody, it was just like a thing like everybody could eventually do. And if things don't take like a pretty severe change of course, like nobody's going to be able to retire. Not to mention, I talk about recently, I think I've talked about it recently that we're going to start to see major issues as a result of our generation's horrible sleep. We are going to start to see like massive problems with that. It creates a lot of strain on the healthcare system. I mean, poor sleep and poor circadian rhythm are probably, I mean, they're mentally like the most harmful thing, but they're physically harmful too. It's very physically harmful for the body to be put through something like that. It's extremely physically harmful. And it's going to increase the rate that people need medication, which is taxing on the system for sure. Increases the rate of it increases the rate of medication. It's going to increase a lot of these things that um it's going to put a big strain and a cost to things. And the worst part is it's like shaping up to be a bunch of people who are broke and they're not going to be able to afford anything. Like, I actually think we could start to see problems with this kind of stuff, like, sooner than we think. Because if you have a bunch of young people who, they're basically not functioning people, they live with their parents, um, they don't have health insurance, um, once they're past 25, their parents, you can't, like, just mooch off of your parents' health insurance anymore. Um, and there are people who have like trashed their health all through their youth. You know, they're like doing drugs, they're eating poorly, they're exercising very little or not at all. And these are going to have huge side effects. Like this is like really bad. I even think just within um just within 5 years we could start to see like pretty major shifts because again, these are people who like they can't afford, like, who's going to pay for their crazy medical procedure, you know? And they can't afford it. Some of these people like aren't working. They're just again kind of living off of their parents and don't really do anything. Their parents probably buy them food and like they still have a room to stay in and stuff like that, but these are people who fundamentally are like not going to be independent, and it's like, where are these people going to go? I guess they'll inherit stuff from their parents, but if you're not healthy, it just, none of this stuff matters. And so many people, they're not healthy when they're in their prime. So as they get older, it's only going to go downhill. It's just only going to get worse the older that they get. And you're going to have this like onslaught of people. I think stuff could start popping up even when people are in their 30s and 40s. And that's why I'm saying, like, even in just 5 or 10 years, like, you could really start to see swaths of people. I think the medical debt problem in America could get worse because, again, it's going to be a bunch of people who can't afford to pay for it. They don't really have money. And it's like those people without money are going to be some of the least healthy. I mean, it's a very like not it's a very stressful, bad situation. And again, it's like it's not even the diet. It's like the poor sleep. I mean, the poor sleep is probably the worst thing. The diet and exercise are like another thing, but people are really sleeping badly, and it's just like it's such an extreme concern, and it's and I guess for a lot of people, like, that's why it's such an extreme concern, because it's like, they, yeah, I don't even know. Like, it's like a lot of people, they couldn't even fix it even if they wanted to. Like, most people nowadays we're kind of just like victims of our environment. And it's like if you were raised, like, even in my case, it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I was raised fairly well. I was kind of raised to be conscientious about health, to try to care about things, and I still really was in a rut for a while. I probably did damage to myself as a result of that, you know, some of which I think could be like semi irreversible. It's like really not good stuff, not good situations that I put myself through as a result of, that kind of living. And I've been on such a good routine, been on such a good, like, healthy routine for a while now. It's been so much better. But for a long time, it's like, really think I'm shaped to be like a different person than I could have been, than I could have been. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. But I guess I really have to count my lucky stars that I'm even here, right? Because it's like there's so many people that are not. And it's like they'll never be. So, but yeah, I mean, it's serious. I think it's very serious. We're going to start to see these problems, and then I don't know how it's going to get paid for, because the burden's going to fall on someone. But it's like, I think hospitals are just going to be like completely swamped, especially too because in conjunction with this, I'm not even mentioning how there's so many more people who are elderly and aging, who are like not, I don't know, they're obviously just like really old, and they're a huge swath of the population. So of course, they're going to start dying off and needing more and more medical attention. And it's just like there's going to be a lot of problems. Like, there's a lot of issues when it comes to Americans' healthcare and health, and just like Americans' lifestyle. And I assume it's somewhat true for other countries as well, but for here in particular, it's like really scary. And again, like, it doesn't really seem like anybody's anticipating it that much. And a lot of people have this apathetic attitude to it, which I guess it's very human, but it's not good. I mean, really, again, like I say it so many times, that is like probably one of the biggest problems with humans, is their failure to really comprehend time well. It's like, even myself, I feel like I'm really good when it comes to time. I'm usually conscious of time. Like, I'm really, really big on that, like, time and being aware and all that. Like, I am. And it's good. But the truth is, even myself, it's like I don't always remember, or like I still lose track of time, you know? Now for me it's usually only slightly. It's only little things, but you know, everybody loses track of time. Even someone like me who's like, you know, I'm hyper aware of that and I'm always trying to be on that. So, anyways, it's been schla and now it's time to buy schla. So, see you schla.